says social media was the #1 reason behind repeat offenders' crimes. Now, that just shows just how much of a big problem it is. He's saying it's the #1 reason, social media. It doesn't seem to be getting any better in terms of crime rates in Queensland.
There was a period there where we were told by the government that this might be some sort of media beat-up. This might be just something that's happening in our heads. I think the numbers tell us that the community sentiment that they're feeling unsafe and worried is shining through in those numbers.
Last Saturday, police say 4 teenagers on an alleged joyride in a stolen car streamed it live to social media before road spikes were deployed in Brisbane's north. Acting Assistant Commissioner for Youth Crime Andrew Massingham says social media was the #1 reason behind repeat offenders' crimes. Now, that just shows just how much of a big problem it is. He's saying it's the #1 reason, social media.
You know, there's no doubt that's a major part. What we're saying is we want zero tolerance to repeat offenders, regardless of whether you go on social media or you choose not to. We want the criminals to know that if you continue to escalate your behaviour in crime, then as a community we expect that the government takes a zero tolerance approach to it. The Labor government still seems to be agonising over the fact that seems, as a community, to be a really simple request.
And it's not like you can stop teenagers from having TikTok and Instagram accounts. Earlier this year, the Queensland government introduced new laws for offenders who post and boast about their crimes on social media. The new laws created an aggravating factor for car thieves who post footage of their offending. Are you confident in these new laws making a difference?
I think all laws being tightened and toughened and changed is a step forward. The challenge we've got in Queensland, and the government has to come up and answer this question. There's nowhere to put these people. So the police are doing a great job at catching them. What they're running into is and the judges are running the same problem. There's nowhere to house them. You know, we asked for, last August, we asked for them to build similar camps like Well Camp, which they built inside of 9 months for 1,000 beds. You know, that was a detention centre. But this issue doesn't seem to be urgent enough, like it was for COVID, for the government to turn around and start to take action.
In recent weeks, 108 young criminals were arrested as part of a Queensland police operation. More than half were serious repeat offenders, and most were live streaming their crimes. Now, Acting Assistant Commissioner Andrew Massingham, who we mentioned earlier, hoped a current trial of GPS trackers on juveniles would help stem the problem.
Meanwhile, in Victoria...
Well, the Victorian government has quietly walked away from an election promise to utilise electric tracking for dangerous young criminals.
I didn't think it was appropriate.
Georgia, this is despite an increase in youth crime, though.
Only when you've experienced something like that, only when you've seen someone you love succumb feebly and painfully to what some people might even describe as a good death, you start to think about what on earth must qualify as a bad death.
Yeah, that's right, Holly. Police statistics show there's been a 30% increase in youth crime. This is despite the state government saying that it's a very different situation now than what it was in 2018 and that there are less youth criminals. Therefore, the measure is no longer needed. The idea was first floated in 2018 as an election promise. The state government saying that parolees as young as 16 who'd committed serious crimes like murder, rape, a car jacking or a home invasion, for example, would be tracked upon release. However, the legislation was never passed.
But lives are at stake. I recognise that many Victorians are doing the right thing and I want to say thank you. But there are some not taking this seriously enough, behaving selfishly and putting lives at risk.
Last year, Victoria Police arrested 416 known gang members who'd committed a combined 1,511 offences across the state. Among some of the worst of those offenders was a 15-year-old boy. He was arrested 33 times for 135 different matters. Youth workers say that electronic devices that monitor youth criminals are a far better option than locking away young people. The state opposition also disagree with the state government's move to not follow up with the legislation. They believe the issue in Victoria regarding youth crime is only going to get worse.
If you can stay at home, you should stay at home. Do it or Victorians will die.
Now, Acting Assistant Commissioner Andrew Massingham, who we mentioned earlier, hoped a current trial of GPS trackers on juveniles would help stem the problem. 6 young offenders across the state have been fitted with electronic monitoring devices at present. Is that the solution, GPS trackers on juveniles who are repeat offenders?
I think using technology is a great step forward, but to have 6, you know, we're told the numbers of these repeat offenders is hovering around 1,000, and only have 6 of them wearing them. It tells us something. My understanding is those laws are so weak that the juvenile can actually protest the request of the courts to wear those devices. So, you know what, I think we need to get harder, we need to get firmer, and we need to make sure that the victims and justice is what we write the laws for, and not the safety of the criminals.